All right, we'll start. Hey, thanks for joining us today, the One-Eyed Scout on the African American Network, TAN TV, where we have a local feel and a global reach. Today, I'm very excited to have a friend of mine, Coach Grahn from University of Dallas. He's going to join us and share a little bit about his program, some of the things that he looks for, and how that we can bridge that gap with San Antonio possibly in the future.
Yeah. Kevin, thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You want to go ahead and share a little bit about your program, and then we'll move on to some questions later on, maybe.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks. So, first of all, a little background on me. I'm going into this coming season will be 31 years in basketball coaching. Got my start at a very young age, and originally from the Pacific Northwest. Grew up in the Seattle area, and but I've been here at the University of Dallas. Just completed year 14, and going into my fourth year as the head coach. University of Dallas. It's a Division III school. It's a small private church related. It's a Catholic school located in Las Colinas, a growing area. It's great for our business program. Las Colinas is a business hub. There's Fortune 400 companies that have their national, international headquarters over there. And like I said, it's a growing community. It's a young community. There's a lot of young people that live in that area now. So, again, having the business hub and the young demographics over there, it's been really beneficial for our school. As far as the basketball program is concerned, we play in the Southern Collegiate Athletic Conference. Most people call it the SCAC. Most of the teams are in Texas, outside of Colorado College, Ozarks in Arkansas, and Hendrix is joining us in Arkansas as well, and then Centenary in Shreveport, Louisiana. All the other schools are in the state of Texas.
That's it's neat to me that your school is Catholic faith based, and San Antonio being a very large number of families in the Catholic religion, Catholicism. I think that could be some appeal for our families and playing a lot of your games in Texas. Could you share maybe what is something that intrigues you about San Antonio basketball players?
Absolutely. The first thing that I think of right off the top of my head is the fact that for those San Antonio kids, we're close enough to home, but we're far enough away, right? They're gonna feel like they're on their own when they're up here, but we're close enough that if we had a weekend off, they could go home and spend some time at home. We do play obviously teams in the area. This coming year, we've got Trinity right there in San Antonio is in our conference. Unfortunately, they're leaving the conference, but we still have Shriner right down the road, TLU's right down the road, Southwestern's, in Georgetown, so not too far away. They're going to have opportunities to go home and play in front of friends and family, and I think that's really critical. The other thing I've noticed over, I moved to Texas. What year was that? 2003. The thing I've noticed over the last 20 plus years about San Antonio players is like there's a certain scrappiness about San Antonio ball players, and I really like that. There's some grit there. There's I feel like a lot of times those players in San Antonio they feel like they've got something to prove, and I like that about those type of players.
Yeah, I agree with you on the grittiness and we do feel like we have something to prove here. All right, so we meet up several times on the AAU circuit, but share with us one of the things that you look for in a player to kind of set himself apart or to draw your attention or keep you coming back.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think any college basketball coach would tell you that a kid that can score the ball stands out, right? I mean, that's the name of the game, right? We're trying to put the ball in the hoop more times than the opponent is. And when a guy can do that, obviously that stands out. However, when you talk about the intangible things, maybe that don't show up in the stat sheet. I do watch guys when they're on the bench. I watch how engaged they are in huddles and timeouts. I watch how they interact with their teammates and their coaches, and that stuff. When it comes down to making a decision on my end of things, that stuff really plays into my decision making process. Whether I want that young man in our program, for the 4-year playing year career or not. And the other piece to that too is, how does that young man interact with his parents?
Mhm.
Because one of the things that's very important to me in running a program, not just a team, one of the things that's important for our program is, I'm not putting on the table just a 4-year transactional deal here, where you come play for me for 4 years and this thing's over and dead. It's done. Uh,
Mhm.
I'm proposing to these young men a lifelong commitment to an evolving relationship with me. I want them to be a part of my life. I want to be a part of their life until my dying day, because I hope I go before they do. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And that's critical to me. And if I can't have some fun with the kid, if I can't see them being a part of my family, and I've got kids. I've got 12, 5, geez Louise, 12, 7, and 3 right now,
Wow.
and I want the players on my team to be a part of my wife's family, my kids' family. I just moved my mom in with me. She wants to be Tutu. That's what my kids call her. It's the Hawaiian word for grandmother. But she wants
Yeah.
my boys to call her Tutu. And that's huge to me. Those relationships and seeing how kids interact with adults and kids alike.
It's interesting that you speak on how to interact with parents and how you want your players to be part of your family, lifelong.
Mhm.
Um, so, from a parent perspective, what are some of those transferable skills? Like, you may go a little bit more into what you were talking about earlier, that you are driving within your program to last them life after basketball.
That's what it's all about right there. At our level, honestly, how many guys are going to be pros?
Mm.
There's very few. Now, it does happen. It
Does
is,
happen.
the misnomer is that Division III basketball, they're not going to be pros. There are pros all over the place that play Division III basketball. However, we're not going to have, for the most part, NBA guys, career NBA guys, right?
Mm.
They're few and far between. So my approach to this, Kevin, is that uh, I teach the game of life through a game they love to play. My classroom is the gym. The subject area is life, and that's the way I really approach what I do. I coach the game of basketball, but I teach life, and I consider myself a teacher. So some of those things, I mean, you hear it all the time, but it's so true. Uh, I think the biggest one is the time management piece, right? And that's the beauty of Division III basketball is I don't get the opportunity to work with our guys outside of our playing season on the court. Okay, that's D3 across the board nationwide. The only time we can work with our boys on the court with the ball is during our declared playing season, and so outside of that, our guys learn how to prioritize uh, basketball and academics, social life, all of those things, because I'm not dictating that to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I spent 8 years at Division I, and at that level, and this was before the summer workouts and all that stuff, but even at that level, while they were on campus with us, um, we dictated a lot of their schedule to them. This is when you're going to be in weights. This is when you're going to be in skill development. This is when you're going to be watching film with us. This is when you go to class. This is when you're going to eat. And a lot of times, young men that hadn't prepared for that, or hadn't had a good background in time management, when they graduated, they still didn't have that skill. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it took them a while to adapt to quote unquote real life. At our level, like it's freshmen walk in and we're not allowed to work with those guys on the court, but 8 days before the season starts, before official practice on October 15th, they have to determine what's important to them and plan their schedules accordingly. And that's something that is I work with our guys. I give them notebooks. They've got weekly planners where they can fill in their weekly schedule and say, okay, this is when I'm going to lift. This is when I'm available to do this. This is when I'm going to get in the gym and get shots up, break out the shooting gun, and this is when I'm going to eat. This is when I'm in class, and we can sit down and look at those things and start building those skills as an 18-year-old young man, so that when 22 hits and they're walking across that stage, they go out into real life and they're able to apply that to their real life, right? Corporate America, whatever they choose to do, they've got that skill and they've practiced it for 4 years. And it's funny I use that term practice. I mentioned I have a 12-year-old and she's going into 7th grade, and she asked me just this past year, we were driving through campus one day, and she said, Dad, what's that building over there? And I said, that's the dorms. She says, what's a dorm? And I said, well, that's where the boys live, right? That's where our students live. And she says, well, why do they live on campus? Like, what is college anyway? And first of all, I was like, pump the brakes, girl. Like, let's be 12 years old, let's not rush things. But I told her, I said, the best thing I came up with was college is practice. That's all it is. It's practice for real life. All right.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are going to live away from mom and dad, right? However, if they screw up here, okay, like let's say they bomb a test, okay, they're not going to lose their job. They're not going to lose their place to live. They're still going to have a meal in the cafeteria. There's a safety net there, right? However, there are consequences to bombing a test, right? They might not be eligible to play. On my end of things, I might take basketball away if they're struggling in the classroom, but it's not going to be, uh, you know, catastrophic, right? It's practice, and but it's catastrophic to them sometimes, which that's the draw to get them better. Is that's the incentive piece that they will improve and they'll start to work on those skills and study skills and time management and all that those things. But again, they're not going to lose their job or their home and they're still going to be fed, right?
Yes, yes.
So that's the way I approach this. Is everything's practice for them to be successful once they walk across that stage and they get their diploma that says University of Dallas on it. I want them prepared to be successful young men in their businesses, in their marriages, in being fathers, and a lot of my guys end up coaching, and I love that they can pass on what they learned from me to future generations.
That's great. Um, I really like that. And kind of wrapping things up, we San Antonio is military city, USA. Um, Being a vet myself, I was wondering, um, what are your personal favorite leadership traits that you have amongst your team or your captains?
That's a great question. And, Kevin, thanks again for your service. I know I've thanked you before, and to all the veterans watching this, thank you. I certainly appreciate your service. I grew up in a military town. Don't hold it against me. It was Navy, but all my buddies growing up, their dads were submariners. But so I certainly have appreciation for that. And I do like, uh, I'm not saying I don't like others, but I do like kids that come from a military household because there is a certain amount of discipline there that they've been taught growing up. As far as my personal preference for leadership things, I love vocal guys. I love vocal guys. I think that being vocal and being able to communicate is a hugely valuable skill. Um, and one of the things I'll tell my guys is I don't care what your natural inclination is, introverted, extroverted, whatever. Those things, to me, like introversion and extroversion, is just where you charge your batteries, right?
Mhm.
Take, for example, my bride. I love her to death. She's naturally introverted, but she's social, and she's a great communicator. And she can speak in front of groups. That's a skill, right? The communication piece, the vocalness, if that's a word. I don't know. My
Mhm.
mom's an English teacher, and I still mess all this stuff up. Uh, but being able to be vocal is a skill that anyone can learn and apply. All right.
Mhm.
And I take my wife as an example. She was, she was a school teacher. She got out of the classroom about a year and a half ago, and when she was in the classroom, she was around people all the time. She came home, her battery was just dead. I mean, her energy levels were minimal at best. By the way, she's a San Antonio native too. Um, but
That's a plus.
now she works for the TRS, the Teacher Retirement System of Texas, and she's a telecounselor from home. She's around very few people during the day. Her energy levels are off the charts. Um, However, she learned playing Division II basketball. She played at Eastern New Mexico University. She's in the Hall of Honor there. She learned through playing sports how to be a great communicator and how to speak in front of people and how to pull that out. It's a skill you can develop. Um, so I love vocal guys. I really do. I think that it unites, excites, and ignites. Right? It unites us in the fact that you're communicating. We can all be on the same page. It excites. It naturally just brings energy to the table, but it ignites in times where maybe that energy is down. It can spark something right away as we're communicating.
Well, Coach, I can't tell you how much I really appreciate your time today, giving us a chance to share with our families what your program is about, um, and bring some real information to the families that we serve. Um, we're going to wrap it up. And again, this is the One Eyed Scout with the African American Network, where we have a local feel and a global reach.